People often say, "I'm tired," as if exhaustion is the reason their dreams are fading, their prayers are delayed, or their hearts are restless. But most of the time, it's not tiredness that holds us back, it's a lack of clarity, a loss of direction, a heart that has forgotten its purpose. When the soul is not anchored to something higher than itself, everything feels heavy. Even small responsibilities begin to feel unbearable, and life starts to seem like a series of endless tasks rather than a meaningful journey. But when the heart is connected to its creator, something changes. The same actions that once felt like burdens now become blessings. What seemed exhausting becomes empowering because now it has meaning behind it. The truth is, the human being is not just a body, it's a soul living inside a body, and when the soul is deprived of its nourishment, its connection with Allah, it begins to weaken. A person may have all the sleep, food, and comfort in the world, but still feel drained and restless. You can't rest a soul that's hungry for purpose with physical comfort. You can only revive it through remembrance, through prayer, through returning to the one who gave it life. When you feel constantly tired, constantly distracted, constantly demotivated, that's your heart's way of saying, I need to come back home. Sometimes we mistake laziness for exhaustion and excuses for limits. We say, I'm too tired to pray, I'm too tired to change, I'm too tired to keep going. But deep down, it's not physical fatigue, it's spiritual emptiness, because when the purpose is clear, the body follows the command of the soul. The companions of the Prophet would march for days under the burning sun, hungry and thirsty, yet their hearts were alive. They didn't move because they felt strong. They felt strong because they were moving for Allah. Purpose gave them power, conviction gave them energy. Their motivation didn't come from comfort, it came from faith. The problem today is that we've reversed the equation. We wait to feel ready before we act. We wait to feel inspired before we move. But faith teaches us the opposite. You act first for Allah's sake, and then He places strength in your steps. When Musa stood before the sea with Pharaoh's army behind him, he didn't wait for a miracle to feel strong. He moved forward in trust. He struck the staff before he saw the path. That's the difference between those who live with purpose and those who live waiting for motivation. One is led by faith, the other by feeling. The truth is, when you say you're tired, you might just be spiritually undernourished. Your mind may be busy, but your heart is empty, and no amount of scrolling, entertainment, or distraction will refill it. You can't heal spiritual exhaustion with worldly stimulation. The heart was created to find rest only in one place. Allah by dikrallahi tatman al qulub *. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find peace. That is the energy source of a believer. That is the spiritual fuel that turns weakness into resilience. When you align your actions with your purpose, when your effort is for His sake, you'll find that fatigue transforms into fulfillment. Think about it. When you're doing something you love, something that inspires you, you can go hours without feeling tired. Time disappears because you're immersed in meaning. But when you're doing something without purpose, even minutes feel heavy. The same applies to life. When the goal is Allah, everything, even pain, loss, and struggle, becomes lighter. When the goal is worldly gain, even small inconveniences feel unbearable. The key isn't to escape tiredness, but to give your tiredness a direction that matters. So when you wake up in the morning feeling empty, don't ask, why am I tired? Ask, what am I living for? Are you chasing something that feeds your soul or something that drains it? Because chasing the world will always leave you exhausted. You'll keep running after approval, after likes, after recognition, after comfort, and none of it will ever be enough. But chasing Allah brings a different kind of peace. It's a peace that doesn't depend on results, only on effort. You may fail, but you won't lose. You may stumble, but you'll never feel lost. Because when you walk toward Him, every step has value. There's a saying, when you feel like giving up, remember why you started. For a believer, that why must always return to Allah. If your goal is to please people, you'll burn out. If your goal is to impress the world, you'll break. But if your goal is to please Allah, then no matter how hard it gets, your heart stays steady. Because the one you're striving for never disappoints, never leaves, never stops rewarding. Allah does not waste the effort of those who do good. Discipline grows from this realization. The more your heart remembers its purpose, the more your body follows it. You no longer wait for perfect conditions to act. You act because you know Allah is watching. And when your effort is for Him, He gives you the energy to keep going. The Prophet taught us this beautifully when he would pray long into the night, until his feet would swell. And when asked why he exerted himself so much when his sins were forgiven, he replied, "Should I not be a grateful servant?" Gratitude fueled his discipline. Worship wasn't a duty. It was love in action. And love never says, "I'm too tired." But when the heart is empty of remembrance, worship feels heavy, kindness feels forced, and patience feels impossible. That's when a person starts saying, "I can't anymore." But that can't isn't the voice of exhaustion. It's the whisper of a disconnected soul. The cure isn't rest, it's reconnection. You need to refill from the source of strength, not from the world that drains you. So next time you feel tired, don't rush to escape it. Pause and reflect. Maybe Allah is calling you back to what really matters. Maybe your fatigue is not a signal to stop, but a reminder to return. Return to prayer, return to gratitude, return to meaning. Because when your heart remembers its purpose, everything else falls into place. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop seeking validation that doesn't last. And suddenly, life feels lighter. Not because it's easy, but because your load is carried by faith. True rest doesn't come from sleep. It comes from surrender. When you stop trying to control everything and trust Allah's plan, your heart finally breathes. You realize that your strength was never meant to come from you. It was always meant to come through you from Him. The illusion of tiredness fades when the truth of purpose awakens. You're not tired. You're disconnected. Reconnect, and you'll see how much power, how much peace, how much clarity returns to your life. The one who moves with purpose doesn't stop at comfort. The one who remembers why they were created doesn't give up because of pain. The one who walks toward Allah never walks alone. So the next time you say, "I'm tired," remember, it's not your body that's weak. It's your heart that's waiting to be revived. Connect it to the one who never tires, and you will never again feel empty. Discipline is one of the most underestimated forms of worship. We often think of worship as limited to prayer, fasting, charity, or recitation of the Quran. But in reality, the very act of disciplining your mind, your time, and your desires for the sake of Allah is an act of obedience. It's not about control for the sake of control. It's about aligning your entire being with divine purpose. Every time you restrain yourself from sin, every time you push yourself to pray when you don't feel like it, every time you choose patience over reaction, you are worshiping Allah in a silent, unseen way. It is not dramatic, it is not visible to others, but it is powerful. Discipline is the quiet proof of faith. You see, everyone feels inspired at times. We all have those moments when faith feels alive and motivation is high. But what separates those who grow in closeness to Allah from those who fall back into heedlessness is consistency. And consistency requires discipline. The Prophet taught that the most beloved actions to Allah are those that are small but consistent. It's not about intensity, it's about commitment. A heart that is trained to keep showing up, no matter how small the effort, is a heart that Allah loves. That is the secret behind true spiritual growth. It's not sudden bursts of effort. It's steady steps of sincerity. Discipline is a daily choice. It's the decision to do what is right, even when it's not easy. It's the strength to say no to your nafs when it calls you toward distraction, laziness, or sin.
It's waking up when the alarm goes off for Fajr, not because you feel like it, but because your soul knows it's a meeting with your Creator. It's lowering your gaze when no one is watching because you know Allah is.
It's giving charity quietly, holding your tongue when you're angry, keeping promises even when it hurts. That is discipline, and it's a form of worship that requires the deepest kind of sincerity, because only Allah knows the effort behind it. The undisciplined soul wants comfort, it wants shortcuts, it wants everything to come easily, but faith doesn't grow in comfort. Faith grows in struggle, in restraint, in resistance. Every time you push against your lower desires, you rise in the sight of Allah. You may not see the results immediately, but in those moments of self-control, Allah is elevating you. He's purifying your heart, strengthening your will, and preparing you for greater tests. Discipline is like a spiritual muscle. It grows stronger every time you use it. And the more you train it for Allah's sake, the easier obedience becomes. When you truly reflect on the nature of discipline, you'll realize that it's not a restriction. It's liberation. The disciplined believer is the freest person alive. Why? Because they are not enslaved by their desires. They are not controlled by impulses or moods. They don't depend on how they feel to decide how they act. Their compass is the command of Allah, not the whispers of the nafs. And that kind of freedom brings peace. When you stop being pulled in every direction by your emotions and instead live with principle, your heart becomes steady. Your life gains structure, your time gains value, and your soul gains dignity. Without discipline, even faith weakens. You can believe in Allah deeply, but if you don't train yourself to act on that belief consistently, it fades. Faith is like a flame, it needs constant fueling through practice. Prayer, fasting, remembrance, patience. These are not random acts. They are divine training. They discipline the heart, the tongue, and the body to live in harmony with the Creator. The 5 daily prayers, for example, are not just rituals. They are reminders to return, to pause, to realign your heart with purpose. Each salah is like a checkpoint that prevents you from drifting too far from the source. Without that structure, life becomes chaotic. Many people pray when they feel inspired, but the disciplined believer prays because it's a command. They don't worship Allah only when it's convenient. They worship Him because He deserves it at every moment. That is the essence of sincerity, doing what's right when no one is watching, continuing when no one praises you, persevering even when the results are invisible. Discipline removes the dependency on emotion and replaces it with devotion. Sometimes, Allah tests us by removing the feeling of motivation to see whether we will still act. He hides the sweetness of worship so we can taste the purity of obedience. It's easy to pray when the heart feels inspired, but it's an act of true faith to pray when the heart feels dry. That's when discipline carries you through. That's when you prove that you're not worshiping Allah for a feeling. You're worshiping Him because He is worthy, whether you feel it or not. Think about the early mornings of Ramadan. Everyone feels that inner drive in those days. The mosques are full, the hearts are soft, the tears come easily. But what happens after Ramadan? That's when discipline is tested. When the environment of spirituality fades, will you still maintain that connection? Will you still rise for tahajjud, still guard your prayers, still hold your tongue, still give quietly? That's what determines your spiritual maturity. Faith starts with belief, but it is sustained by discipline. In every act of discipline lies a battle between the soul and the self. The self says, "It's too hard," while the soul whispers, "For Allah, it's worth it." And when you choose the whisper of the soul over the noise of desire, you are drawing nearer to Him in ways you can't even see. Every moment of discipline is recorded by the angels. Every struggle is noted. Every resisted temptation is rewarded. Sometimes we think we're not doing enough because we don't see visible progress, but Allah sees the unseen effort. He knows the private battles, the silent sacrifices, the small acts of resistance, and He counts them all. True discipline also comes from gratitude. When you recognize that every breath, every day, every opportunity is a gift from Allah, you naturally want to use them wisely. You become conscious of your time, careful with your speech, intentional with your actions. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't benefit you and start investing it in what draws you closer to Him. That shift in awareness is transformative. It brings meaning to your routine, depth to your effort, and purpose to your patience. And yes, discipline can feel lonely. While others are sleeping, you're awake in prayer. While others are indulging, you're restraining. While others are giving up, you're pushing forward. But understand this, every lonely moment in discipline is witnessed by the one you're doing it for. Every tear, every effort, every act of restraint is seen by Allah, and nothing done for His sake is ever wasted. The path of discipline is narrow, but it leads to eternal peace. The path of indulgence is wide, but it ends in regret. So if you find yourself struggling to stay consistent, remember that discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being sincere. You will slip. You will fail. But what matters is that you keep returning. Keep striving. Keep showing up. Every act of return is a victory over your ego. Every act of persistence is proof that your heart is still alive. Discipline is not a destination. It's a journey, a lifelong training of the soul. And as you train your soul, something remarkable happens. The things that once felt heavy begin to feel light. What once felt impossible becomes natural. The same prayer that once required effort becomes your comfort. The same patience that once burned becomes your strength. The disciplined believer becomes a reflection of peace, firm on the outside, tranquil on the inside, because discipline, when done for Allah's sake, doesn't harden the heart, it polishes it. So understand this, every moment you choose discipline over desire, you are choosing Allah over yourself, and that is the highest form of worship. It is the unseen jihad of the soul, the daily battle that defines the believer. You're not tired, you're being trained. You're not weak, you're being refined, and the reward of discipline isn't just success in this world. It's the serenity of a heart that has learned to live in obedience to the one who created it. Every human being spends a lifetime chasing something. Some chase wealth, others chase status, comfort, or validation. But the truth is, everything we chase in this world eventually fades. No matter how much you gather, no matter how much you achieve, it will all slip through your fingers one day. The beauty fades, the applause dies, the money loses its meaning. And when that happens, many people are left wondering, was this what life was really about? The answer lies in realizing that everything around you is temporary, fleeting, an illusion of permanence. The only true, lasting reality is Allah. Everything else is just a reflection, a shadow that disappears when the light of truth appears. The world gives you glimpses of reality, but never the full picture. When you see beauty, it is only a sign of the one who is Al-Jamil, the most beautiful. When you experience love, it is only a glimpse of the infinite love of the one who is Al-Wadud, the most loving. When you see justice, it is a trace of Al-Adl, the most just. Every good thing in this world points back to him, but we often get lost in the reflection and forget the source. That's when life begins to lose meaning. You start attaching yourself to things that were never meant to last, and the result is always heartbreak. Think about how fragile the world really is. One moment of loss can turn everything upside down. The person you depended on can leave, the success you built can collapse, the health you took for granted can fade. And in those moments, when the illusions crumble, you're forced to confront what's real. Allah teaches us through loss what permanence truly means. He removes the temporary to remind us of the eternal. The world was never meant to be your destination. It was meant to be your direction, pointing you toward Him. We live in a time where the illusion is stronger than ever. The world convinces you that happiness lies in possessions, attention, or achievements. Social media has turned life into a competition of appearances. We compare our behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel and wonder why we feel empty. But the emptiness is not from what we lack in the world, it's from what we lack within. You can fill your life with everything the world offers, but if your heart is disconnected from Allah, nothing will satisfy you, because the heart was not created to be filled by creation. It was created to be filled by the Creator. When a person recognizes that Allah is the only reality, something profound happens. Life becomes simpler. The chaos doesn't overwhelm you because you understand it has a purpose. The ups and downs don't break you because you know they are designed by the one who never makes mistakes. The pain doesn't destroy you because it brings you closer to the healer. You begin to see everything through a new lens, one that reveals divine wisdom even in what seems unfair or painful. You realize that the tests of life are not punishments, they're invitations. Invitations to remember to return to realign. Every disappointment becomes a message. Asterisk. Don't get too attached here. You were made for more. Asterisk. And when you internalize that, peace settles into your heart. You stop chasing and start connecting. You stop demanding and start submitting. You stop asking why me and start saying, Ya Allah, guide me. That shift from illusion to reality is the true awakening of the soul. Because the greatest form of blindness is not physical, it's spiritual blindness, when a person can see the world but not its meaning. And the greatest form of sight is when your heart can see Allah's hand behind everything, even when your eyes cannot. When you begin to perceive His presence in every moment, every breath, every hardship, every joy, you have discovered the secret of peace. The world is like a mirage. It shows you something that looks real from a distance, but when you reach it, it vanishes. You think happiness lies in wealth until you get it and still feel restless. You think it lies in love until people change and leave. You think it lies in success until you realize it never ends. You achieve one goal and immediately start chasing another. The cycle never stops because the world was never designed to fulfill you. It was designed to remind you that only Allah can. When the heart attaches to the illusion, it suffers. When it attaches to the reality, it finds serenity. That's why the believer's peace doesn't depend on circumstances. Even in loss, they say asterisk alhamdulillah. Asterisk, even in pain, they find gratitude. Even in difficulty, they find contentment, because they're not living for the temporary. They're living for the eternal. Their hearts have anchored themselves in the one who never changes, and that gives them stability in a world that constantly shifts. To truly live with this awareness means to see everything as a sign. When the sun rises, you see the power of Al-Khaliq, the Creator. When rain falls, you remember His mercy. When the wind blows, you sense His presence moving through creation. When you look at your own reflection, you see a soul shaped by His design. Nothing in existence is meaningless. Every atom is in submission. The Quran tells us that there is not a thing that exists except that it glorifies Allah, though you do not understand its glorification. The entire universe is a symphony of remembrance, but the tragedy is that the human heart, the most honored of all creation, forgets. When the believer remembers, the world becomes a mirror of divine reality. You don't see things as just material. You see them as spiritual reminders. Wealth becomes a test of gratitude, not greed. Relationships become a means of mercy, not dependency. Hardship becomes a classroom for patience, not despair. The more you see Allah behind the veil of creation, the lighter your burdens become. Because now, instead of resisting life, you begin to flow with it, trusting that every moment is a thread in a perfect divine design. There comes a time in every person's journey when they face a situation that strips them of control. Maybe it's loss, betrayal, sickness, or heartbreak. And in that moment, the illusion shatters. You realize that all along, you were holding on to things that could never hold you back. And that's when your heart whispers the truth it always knew. Asterisk, La ilaha illa Allah. There is no reality worthy of my reliance, my fear, or my love except Allah. Asterisk, that realization is not a sentence. It's liberation. When you live with this truth, your priorities shift. You stop wasting energy trying to make everything perfect in a world that was never meant to be perfect. You stop trying to please everyone in a world that was never meant to satisfy everyone. You start focusing on the one who controls hearts, who holds destinies, who brings peace to the restless, and suddenly life becomes clear. The noise fades, the fear quiets, and the heart rests. The more you anchor your existence in the reality of Allah, the lighter your steps become. You stop clinging to outcomes because you trust the planner. You stop resenting pain because you see purpose in it. You stop fearing loss because you know that nothing can be taken except what was never meant for you. That is the state of true freedom. The heart that depends only on the eternal cannot be enslaved by the temporary. And so, when you stand before this world and all its distractions, remind yourself that everything here is a reflection, not the source. Don't get lost in the shadow and forget the light. Allah is the only reality. When your heart recognizes that, your worship becomes deeper, your patience becomes easier, your trust becomes unshakable. You begin to live not in illusion, but in truth. And that truth will carry you through every trial, every loss, every moment of silence, until you meet the one who was the reality all along. Many people today say, I feel weak, I feel lost, or I can't handle it anymore. But weakness is not the absence of strength. It's the absence of faith in the one who gives strength. The human being was not created powerless. Allah placed within every soul the ability to rise, to endure, and to overcome. But that strength only awakens when you remember its source. When faith fades, weakness grows. When faith strengthens, even mountains feel light. The problem isn't that we are incapable. It's that we forget who sustains our capability. Every one of us has faced moments when we felt we couldn't go on. A trial that broke us, a door that wouldn't open, a prayer that seemed unanswered. We told ourselves, I'm too weak for this. But if you reflect deeply, you'll realize that those same moments were not proof of weakness. They were opportunities to discover the depth of your strength through Allah. Because true strength doesn't come before the struggle, it's revealed during it. When you fall to your knees in tears and still whisper, Ya Allah, that's not weakness, that's power in its purest form. We live in a world that glorifies independence. It teaches us that strength means standing on your own, never showing emotion, never breaking down. But faith teaches something far more profound. Real strength is not in denying your limits. It's in surrendering them to the one who has none. The prophet would weep in prayer until his beard was soaked with tears. Yet he was the strongest human being who ever walked the earth. Why? Because his strength was anchored in Allah. His heart never depended on the world, it depended on the creator of the world. When the connection with Allah weakens, life begins to feel heavier. The smallest challenges feel unbearable because you're trying to carry them alone. But when faith is alive, even the hardest storms can't shake you. You start to see life through a different lens, not as a series of obstacles, but as a journey designed by your Lord to build your soul. Every test becomes a teacher, every pain becomes a purifier, every delay becomes a reminder that Allah's timing is always better than yours. Weakness only takes over when you forget that nothing happens without His will, and nothing is lost when you have Him. The Quran reminds us again and again that Allah is with the patient, the steadfast, the believers who rely on Him. But reliance doesn't mean passivity. It means effort with trust. You do your best, you strive, you struggle, and then you place the outcome in his hands. That balance between effort and tawakkul is what transforms weakness into strength. Too often, people give up because they expect instant results, but Allah does not measure success the way the world does. He measures sincerity, perseverance, and trust. The moment you say, "I tried, but nothing changed," is the moment you've misunderstood faith. Faith isn't about things changing for you. It's about you changing through them. When you say, "I can't," remember that Allah said, "I am with you." When you say, "It's too hard," remember that He said, "Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear." These verses aren't just meant to be recited, they're meant to be lived. They are meant to remind you that no matter how heavy life feels, you are never truly alone. The same Lord who carried you through yesterday's pain will carry you through today's struggle, but you have to hold on. The believer's strength is not found in their muscles or money. It's found in their heart's ability to stay connected when everything else falls apart. The real reason people feel weak is not because they are incapable, but because they are distracted. They are trying to draw strength from the wrong sources, from people, from circumstances, from success. But people disappoint, circumstances change, success fades. The only constant is Allah. When you depend on the temporary, your strength will always fluctuate. When you depend on the eternal, your heart remains steady. That's why a believer can face loss with patience, betrayal with forgiveness, hardship with hope, because their strength is not borrowed from this world. It is rooted in the one beyond it. The early generations of believers understood this deeply. They faced persecution, hunger, exile, and death, yet they remained unshaken. How? Because their faith wasn't based on comfort. It was based on conviction. They knew that this world is not paradise, and they didn't expect it to be. They knew that ease and hardship were both tools of divine mercy. When they were tested, they said, "Alhamdulillah." When they were blessed, they said, "Alhamdulillah." Their faith made them unbreakable. But when we forget Allah, even small inconveniences can feel like unbearable mountains. A delay in success, a rejection, a disappointment, and suddenly we crumble. That's because we've tied our stability to things that were never meant to hold it. You can't anchor your heart to a world that's constantly moving. Anchor it to the one who never changes, and you'll find a peace that nothing can disturb. Weakness is not the problem, forgetfulness is. Because when you forget the power of the one who created you, you underestimate the power He placed within you. Allah gave you the ability to endure more than you think. The human soul is remarkable. It can survive heartbreak, loss, betrayal, and still rise again. But only when it's connected to its Creator. Disconnect it, and even minor problems will feel unbearable. That's why remembrance is not just an act of worship. It's a source of survival. When your tongue remembers Allah, your heart remembers who you are. You were not created to break, you were created to bow, and the one who bows before Allah cannot be broken by the world. Every time you feel weak, that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to return. Return to prayer, return to Deen. Hikr, return to the Quran. Strength isn't something you find outside. It's something Allah awakens inside when you turn to Him. The Prophet said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, though both have good." Strength here isn't about physical ability. It's about the strength of a man, the strength to stand firm when others give up, the strength to keep going when your heart is heavy, the strength to say Alhamdulillah when life doesn't go your way. And yes, sometimes Allah allows you to feel weak on purpose, so that you remember you were never meant to rely on yourself. He humbles you not to hurt you, but to draw you nearer. Because in weakness, you learn reliance. In failure, you learn humility. In pain, you learn patience. And through those lessons, your soul grows stronger than it ever could have through ease. The believer doesn't ask for a lighter load. They ask for a stronger back. And Allah in His mercy strengthens those who seek Him sincerely. When you start believing that strength comes from Him, you stop fearing your limitations. You stop saying, I can't, and start saying, with Allah, I can. You stop waiting for ideal conditions and start walking with conviction. Because the truth is, no one who ever trusted Allah was left unaided. No one who ever placed their heart in His care was abandoned. Weakness only wins when faith is forgotten. But as long as your heart remembers Allah, you will rise again and again. Because His mercy never runs out, His help never comes late, and His power never fades. So the next time you feel weak, remind yourself that you were never meant to carry the world alone. The one who holds the heavens and the earth is holding you too. You're not weak. You're just being reminded of where your real strength comes from. And when you finally realize that, you'll discover that the heart connected to Allah is the strongest force in existence. We live in a world that glorifies comfort, a world that convinces us that peace lies in ease, that success means never feeling discomfort, never feeling challenged, never being stretched. But this illusion has destroyed countless souls who once had purpose burning inside them. The believer's path was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be meaningful. Every test, every hardship, every moment of discomfort is there to awaken something inside you that ease could never bring. You see, Allah does not build strong believers in comfort. He builds them in struggle. He builds them in moments when they want to give up, but choose to keep going because they remember who they are doing it for. When we look at the lives of those who achieved true greatness, the prophets, the righteous, the reformers, you will find one thing in common. None of them lived a life of comfort. Their nights were spent in prayer, their days in struggle, their hearts in remembrance. They faced rejection, pain, loneliness, and sacrifice. But what made them stand apart was their purpose. They did not seek comfort, they sought Allah. And when the purpose is pure, discomfort no longer feels like suffering, it feels like service. The one who walks the path of Allah does not ask, why is it hard? He asks, is it worth it? And when the answer is Allah, then every difficulty becomes a form of worship. The Prophet, the best of creation, lived a life that many of us today would call uncomfortable. He buried his children with his own hands. He went days without food. He was mocked, exiled, and even physically harmed, yet never once did he complain. Why me? He knew that the path to Jannah was paved with struggle, not ease. His heart was at peace because his purpose was clear. This is what it means to choose purpose over comfort, to understand that true peace is not in avoiding pain, but in enduring it for the sake of something greater than yourself. Our problem today is that we want the rewards of discipline without the cost of sacrifice. We want results without effort, spirituality without struggle, success without consistency. We ask Allah for greatness, yet we run from the very struggles that shape greatness. We beg Allah for strength, but we resist the weights that strengthen the soul. If every test you prayed to escape was actually sent to elevate you, then realize that Allah was not punishing you, He was preparing you. When you feel tired, when you feel like giving up, when your heart whispers, I can't do this anymore, that is the moment when your faith is being tested. That is the moment when purpose must speak louder than pain. It is in that very moment that Allah looks at your heart and sees whether you're walking the path of comfort or the path of conviction. Because the truth is, anyone can stay motivated when life is easy. But it takes a believer to stay steadfast when everything hurts. That's where discipline is born, not from ease, but from the battle between your desires and your devotion. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where Allah wants you to be. It's not built overnight. It's built one small act of obedience at a time. It's waking up for Fajr when your body says sleep. It's controlling your anger when your ego says react. It's choosing hikr when your heart feels empty. It's being kind when no one appreciates it. It's being consistent even when no one notices. Every time you overcome your lower self for the sake of Allah, you are choosing purpose over comfort. You are choosing to be among those who live for something eternal. Comfort numbs the heart. It makes us forget the struggle that brings us closer to our Creator. Look around, the world today is drowning in comfort yet starving for peace. People have luxuries their ancestors could never imagine, yet their souls feel hollow. Why? Because comfort without purpose is emptiness disguised as happiness. The believer finds joy not in what the world gives, but in what the soul gains. The sweetness of sujud, the peace of patience, the strength that comes from surrendering to Allah, these are treasures no comfort can replace. There is a secret in every hardship. It humbles you, it breaks you, but it also brings you to your knees, and that is where miracles happen. Some of the most powerful du'as are made not from comfort, but from tears that fall in pain. The one who is comfortable seldom cries out to Allah with sincerity, but the one who is tested learns what it means to truly rely on Him. This is why Allah says in the Quran, indeed, with hardship comes ease, not after hardship, but with it, meaning in the very moment of struggle, there is hidden ease, the ease of closeness to Him, the ease of knowing that you are being shaped, not shattered. The awakened believer understands that the journey of life is not meant to be smooth. It is meant to refine you. It is meant to remove arrogance, teach patience, and strengthen reliance. So do not fear difficulty. Fear a life so comfortable that you never grow. Fear a heart so attached to ease that it forgets its purpose. The greatest tragedy is not that life is hard, it's that we stop striving the moment it becomes hard. The believer keeps walking, even when his legs tremble, because he knows Allah walks with those who don't give up. When your purpose is to please Allah, no pain can break you. You begin to see discomfort differently. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "Ya Allah, what are you teaching me through this?" And that shift, that quiet acceptance, is what transforms your life. It gives meaning to your suffering, light to your darkness, and strength to your weakness. This is the path of the awakened heart, the one that has surrendered comfort in exchange for closeness to its Lord. So the next time life gets heavy, the next time you feel like you've had enough, remind yourself, purpose over comfort. Every test is a sign that Allah still sees potential in you. Every hardship is a door to elevation. Do not run from the discomfort that refines you, because comfort never made anyone strong. But struggle for the sake of Allah. That's what shapes souls that light the world. And when you finally rise after every fall, when you hold on to faith after every storm, you'll look back and realize that every moment of pain was worth it, because it led you closer to Him, and that's all that ever truly mattered. Every single morning that Allah allows you to open your eyes is not just another day, it's a divine invitation. It's a silent reminder from your Creator saying, "I'm giving you another chance to rise, to return, to rebuild." The sun rises not just to light the earth, but to remind your soul that it too can rise again, no matter how dark the night before was. Yet, how many of us wake up without purpose, without direction, just repeating routines while our hearts remain asleep? The difference between those who live meaningfully and those who merely exist lies in one simple thing: intention. Intention is the foundation of discipline, and discipline is the door to destiny. When you wake up without intention, the day owns you. But when you wake up with purpose, when your first thought is Allah, you own the day. The Prophet taught us that actions are judged by intentions. Think about that deeply. It's not just about what you do, but why you do it. You can perform the same action as someone else, yet the value in the sight of Allah could be completely different. Two people can wake up early. One does it because they must, the other because they love meeting their Lord at dawn. That difference, that subtle yet powerful shift, changes everything. The disciplined heart understands that life is built through small, consistent acts that are done with sincerity. It's not about doing extraordinary things once in a while. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary intention every single day. Waking up for Fajr, resisting laziness, controlling your words, being patient in trials, these are not random acts. They are bricks in the wall of your destiny. Every small act of discipline is a statement to the world, my purpose is greater than my comfort. But the truth is, discipline doesn't always feel spiritual. It doesn't always feel rewarding. Sometimes it feels exhausting. Sometimes you will pray without feeling connected, work without seeing results, try without witnessing progress. Yet, that's exactly when your discipline matters most. Because when you continue to act with sincerity even when your heart feels dry, you're proving that your faith is rooted in conviction, not emotion. You're proving that your worship is for Allah, not for how it makes you feel. That's the kind of discipline that builds a destiny worth living for. Discipline in the spiritual sense isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about being consistent with what brings you closer to Allah. It's understanding that your nafs will always look for an easier route, always whisper, not today, maybe later. But every time you say, no today, for the sake of Allah, you are training your soul to rise above the self that limits you. You are teaching your heart to obey its creator over its comfort. And that's the essence of true discipline. It's not about punishment. It's about purification. When you think of those who achieved greatness in faith, whether it was the prophets, the companions, or the righteous who came after them, they all had one thing in common: their unwavering discipline. They didn't allow excuses to control their lives. They didn't wait for motivation. They built habits around faith. They prayed even when it hurt. They worked even when tired. They gave even when they had little. And because of that, Allah elevated them. You see, Allah loves consistency more than intensity. A small deed done regularly for His sake is more beloved to Him than an act done in bursts of emotion and then abandoned. That's how the believer lives steadily, intentionally, purposefully. Your destiny isn't written somewhere far away waiting for you to stumble upon it. Your destiny is written every day through the choices you make, through how disciplined you are with your time, your worship, your emotions, and your effort. You can't pray for success and then live in distraction. You can't ask for strength and then avoid the struggles that build it. Allah will not hand you greatness on a silver platter. He will place opportunities disguised as challenges to see whether you are willing to rise for them. And this is where intention meets discipline. When your intentions are pure, when everything you do begins with, for the sake of Allah, even the smallest act becomes meaningful. Your walk to the masjid, your patience with your parents, your effort at work, your smile to a stranger, all of it becomes a thread in the tapestry of your destiny. You begin to realize that success isn't about what you have. It's about who you become while striving for it. Every disciplined person has days when they feel like giving up, but they keep going because their goal isn't worldly. Their eyes are fixed on a higher reward. They remind themselves that Allah is watching the effort, not the outcome. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't just wake up to another day, wake up to an opportunity to write a page in the story Allah is watching unfold. Make your first words Bismillah, your first act remembrance, and your first thought gratitude. That's how discipline becomes devotion, and devotion becomes destiny. We live in a time where distraction is the enemy of discipline. Every beep, every scroll, every notification pulls you away from purpose. The disciplined believer learns to guard his focus the way a warrior guards his sword. He knows that time is a blessing he'll be questioned about, and so he spends it wisely. He doesn't let the temporary steal from the eternal. He prioritizes what will matter on the day of judgment over what feels good for a moment. That kind of awareness, that spiritual clarity, doesn't come from ease. It comes from daily choices, from a mind trained to remember Allah before the world. And when you build that kind of discipline, it shows in your peace. You stop being swayed by every emotion, every setback, every failure. You begin to see Allah's wisdom in delays, His mercy in hardships, His nearness in loneliness. You learn that every disciplined step forward, even when unseen by others, is recorded by the one who never forgets. You stop comparing your journey to others because you realize that your path is tailored for your soul's growth. You don't chase validation. You chase sincerity. You stop counting achievements. You start counting moments of obedience. That's the beauty of a disciplined believer. He is not moved by the noise of the world, but by the voice of his conscience that whispers, "Stay consistent. Stay true. Allah sees you." This is how discipline leads to destiny, not through grand gestures, but through quiet, consistent acts of faith. You may not see the results now, but one day you'll look back and realize that every early prayer, every moment of self-restraint, every tear shed in secret was a brick in the foundation of your success, not in this world alone, but in the next. So, rise with intention, start small, but start sincerely. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is the one Allah has already given you this very breath. Every sunrise is a message. You still have time to become who you were meant to be. Don't waste it in hesitation or laziness. Be disciplined, be consistent, and remember, your destiny isn't written by what you dream of, it's written by what you do for the sake of Allah. When your heart beats for purpose and your actions follow discipline, Allah will guide your steps to where you belong. And in the end, when you meet Him, you'll realize that every moment of struggle, every act of effort, every disciplined choice was worth it because it led you straight to Him.